Let me ask you something real. Are you tired of running in circles, chasing goals, chasing money, chasing people, trying to grind your way to peace and still feeling empty? You've tried the hustle. You've tried the late nights and early mornings. You've tried the affirmations, the planners, the vision boards, but something's still missing. You know why? Because you're trying to build your life with God on the sideline. And let me tell you right now, God was never meant to be a part-time consultant in your full-time life. He's not your backup plan. He's not your emergency contact. God is the source, not a resource, period. Today's message is not a cute motivational speech. This is a divine alignment call. This is a spiritual reset. This is about putting God first for real this time, so you can stop surviving and finally start thriving in the supernatural flow He designed for you. Welcome to Myron Golden Track. Let's dive in. God is the source, not a resource. Let's get this straight right now. God is not your backup plan. God is not your side hustle. God is not some motivational booster shot you run to only when life punches you in the face. God is the source, period. Most people in this world are operating like God is a resource they tap into when they run dry. When the money runs low, they pray. When the relationship falls apart, they pray. When the business tanks, they pray. And then when things start going right again, they put God back on the shelf like some emergency fire extinguisher they hope they never have to use again. That's the problem. That's why so many people live in cycles. One breakthrough followed by a breakdown. One blessing followed by a backslide. One promotion followed by a period of pride and self-dependence. It's because they keep treating God like a temporary resource instead of the permanent, never-ending source of everything good and lasting in their life. See, when you treat God like a resource, you approach Him transitionally. You think, if I do this, maybe God will give me that. You only pray when you want something. You only fast when you're desperate for a door to open. You only worship when you're hoping to manipulate God into moving faster. That's not relationship, that's spiritual manipulation. God doesn't respond to manipulation. He responds to faith. He responds to alignment. He responds to people who recognize Him as the source of everything they are, everything they have, and everything they will ever become. God said in His word, James 1:17, every good and perfect gift comes from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. Did you catch that? Every good thing comes from Him. Your breath, that's God. Your ability to work, that's God. Your creative ideas, that's God. So when you put God in the right position as your source, you stop stressing over resources. You stop chasing things that are temporary. You stop putting your hope in a job, a client, a paycheck, a deal, a human connection, or even your own talents. When God is the source, you operate from a position of peace. You understand that clients may come and go, but your source doesn't change. Money may fluctuate, but your source doesn't change. People may disappoint you, but your source doesn't change. Here's the truth. When you misplace the source, you misplace your security. When you think your job is the source, you panic when layoffs happen. When you think your business is the source, you crumble when sales dip. When you think people are your source, you compromise your integrity to keep them around. But when God is your source, you stand firm even when the ground around you shakes. You stop operating in fear. You start operating in faith. You stop reacting to circumstances. You start responding to God's promises. And hear me, your source doesn't run dry. Your source isn't limited by inflation, by government policy, by market trends, or by people's opinions. God is limitless. His provision is endless. His power is unstoppable. His favor is unexplainable. So Stop praying like God is broke. Stop making small requests like he's on a budget. Stop shrinking your dreams to fit your current situation. Start praying like you're connected to the source of all creation, because you are. When you see God as the source, your prayer life changes. Your mindset shifts. Your work ethic becomes more aligned with purpose rather than pressure. You'll start giving more because you're not afraid of lack. You'll start dreaming bigger because you know you're backed by heaven. Let me ask you, where is your trust? Who's your source? Because if it's anything other than God, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Businesses can fail. Economies can collapse. People can walk away, but God remains. Seek first the kingdom, not success. We live in a success-obsessed culture. Everybody's chasing the next big thing. Everybody wants the six-figure income, the luxury car, the million-dollar home, the viral social media following, the public recognition, the brand deals, the blue check mark, the applause of strangers. And listen, I'm not here to tell you success is bad, but I'm here to tell you that seeking success as your first pursuit is out of order. It's backwards. It's broken. It's why people climb to the top of their mountain only to realize the mountain was empty. Jesus said in Matthew 6:33, but seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. Notice the order. Seek first the kingdom, not second, not after your business blows up, not after you get your degree, not after you finally feel ready. First. That means God's agenda comes before yours. His will comes before your personal preferences. His standards come before your excuses. His word comes before popular opinion. See, too many people want the benefits of the kingdom without living by the principles of the kingdom. They want God to bless their business, but they won't run their business with integrity. They want God to bless their finances, but they won't tithe or sow. They want God to elevate them, but they won't humble themselves before him. So if we're going to describe a family or a household, the best way that I think it looks is with God under C, T, or Y. You want the kingdom's rewards? You've got to operate by kingdom order. Seeking the kingdom first means you prioritize what God prioritizes. You wake up thinking, how can I advance the kingdom today? You make decisions by asking, does this honor God? Does this align with his righteousness? You don't just ask, will this make me money, or will this make me popular? You ask, will this make me more aligned with God's purpose for my life? Let me tell you something about kingdom economics. When you take care of God's business, he takes care of yours. When you make his agenda your priority, he'll handle the things you're stressing about. You don't have to chase success. When you seek the kingdom first, success starts chasing you. God knows you need resources. He knows you need provision. He knows you need opportunities and open doors. He promised it. All these things shall be added unto you. You don't have to manipulate people. You don't have to compromise your values. You don't have to grind yourself into the ground. But here's the key. Stop making success your idol. Stop putting achievement on the throne where only God belongs. Some of you have been treating God like an accessory to your success story, like he's a footnote in your testimony. But God's not looking to be your business partner. He's looking to be your Lord. There's a big difference. Kingdom order says God first, everything else second. When you live by that order, your stress goes down, your clarity goes up, your purpose becomes clear, and your blessings start flowing in ways you can't even explain. Some of you are one decision away from divine acceleration, but God is waiting for you to fix your priorities. He's waiting for you to put him in his rightful place. Build your schedule around God, not around money. Let's get something clear right now. The way you organize your day is a direct reflection of what you truly value. You can say God is first with your mouth all day long, but your calendar exposes the truth. The real question is, does your schedule look like someone who puts God first, or does it look like someone chasing after money, approval, or survival? See, most people build their schedule around their business. They build it around deadlines. They build it around client calls. They build it around meetings, sales targets, and chasing income. And then, after everything else is done, if there's 5 minutes left at the end of the day, they throw God, the leftover scraps of their attention, a quick prayer in the car, a rushed devotional while scrolling on their phone, a half-hearted acknowledgement during the offering time at church. That's not putting God first. That's treating him like an afterthought. The reason so many people stay in financial struggle, mental chaos, and emotional burnout is because their day starts with them and not with God. They wake up thinking about money, thinking about deals, thinking about numbers, thinking about how to get ahead, all while ignoring the one who has the power to give them everything they're chasing after. The word says in Proverbs 3:6, in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Notice it doesn't say acknowledge him when you have time. It doesn't say acknowledge him when you feel spiritual. It says in all your ways. That means before you take a client call, acknowledge him. Before you schedule a meeting, acknowledge him. Before you make a business move, acknowledge him. Before you plan your day, ask him, Lord, what do you want me to do today? When you build your schedule around God, it changes how you wake up in the morning. It's no longer, let me jump out of bed and check emails. It's, let me get on my knees and check in with heaven first. Before the phone, before social media, before your to-do list. You prioritize prayer. You prioritize the word. You prioritize his presence. You start your day by feeding your spirit before you feed your ambition. You position your heart in alignment with God's will before you position your hands to work on your business. That's how you set yourself up for supernatural productivity. When you put God first in your schedule, you'll notice something crazy happens. You get more done in less time. You stop grinding out of anxiety and start flowing out of divine instruction. God begins to give you ideas that save you hours of wasted effort. He shows you what to focus on. He shows you who to call. He shows you what project to let go of. You're no longer just busy, you're effective. Some of you are exhausted because you're working on things God never told you to work on. You're spending hours building strategies God never called you to build. You're saying yes to clients he never sent. You're chasing money that was never meant for you. Why? Because you're letting money dictate your calendar instead of letting God dictate your steps. Let me tell you something. When you build your schedule around God, you don't lose time, you redeem it. He gives you grace to accomplish in 1 hour what others grind for days trying to finish. He puts favor on your assignments. He opens doors no man can shut. And while other people are burning out chasing money, you'll be walking in supernatural provision because you chased God first. You've got to stop believing the lie that spending time with God is taking time away from your goals. Time with God is the key to unlocking your goals. Time with God is where you get your strategy. Time with God is where you get your strength. Time with God is where you get your peace. If your day doesn't start with God, you're starting already behind. If your calendar doesn't reflect kingdom priority, you're out of order before you even send your first email. It's time to flip the script. It's time to build your day, your week, your month, your entire business rhythm around your relationship with him. When you build your schedule around God, you're making a prophetic declaration that says, I trust God more than I trust my grind. I trust his provision more than I trust my paycheck. I trust his wisdom more than I trust my own understanding. When you do that, you're not working for blessings, you're working from a place of already being blessed. The stress lifts, the anxiety breaks, the pressure to perform melts away. Because now you're operating in God's flow, not your own. God will honor that. God will elevate that. God will breathe on that because he always blesses what's in order with his kingdom. Faith-led decisions unlock supernatural doors. Most people make decisions based on fear. Fear of missing out, fear of failure, fear of going broke, fear of what people will say, fear of rejection, fear of change, fear of discomfort. And that fear drives their business moves, their relationship choices, their financial decisions, even their ministry steps. But let me tell you something, fear-based decisions never lead to faith-based results. If you're making choices because you're scared, don't expect God to bless that. God doesn't reward fear-based action. He rewards faith-led obedience. When you make decisions led by faith, you're not looking at what makes sense in the natural. You're looking at what God said. You're following his instruction even when it doesn't match your bank account. Even when it doesn't match your 5-year business plan, even when it doesn't fit the timeline you had in your head. Faith says, I'll go even if I don't have all the answers. Faith says, I'll sow even when the numbers don't make sense. Faith says, I'll step out even when I'm nervous. Faith says, I'll trust God's voice over human logic. In Hebrews 11:6 it says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. Not difficult, not unlikely, impossible. That means every time you're making decisions purely out of fear or comfort, you're automatically operating outside of what pleases God. Some of you have been praying for supernatural doors to open, but you're making natural decisions. You want miraculous favor, but you're moving in cautious calculation. You want big breakthroughs, but you're making small, fear-controlled moves. God doesn't open supernatural doors for people who are playing it safe. He opens them for people who are willing to take supernatural steps. That means when God says go, you go. When he says give, you give. When he says pivot, you pivot. When he says trust, you trust. Faith-led decisions require you to step into rooms where you don't know anybody, but you know God sent you there. They require you to launch projects where you don't have all the funding, but you have all the faith. They require you to say yes to assignments that stretch you, challenge you, and sometimes even scare you. But here's the thing. The size of your step determines the size of your door. Small faith, small door. Big faith, big door. Radical faith, radical doors. God is not interested in you playing it safe. He's not moved by your strategic plan as much as he's moved by your surrender. He's not impressed with your comfort zone. He's looking for people who will trust him enough to step even when they can't see the full staircase. When you start making faith-led decisions, you attract supernatural resources. You attract divine connections. You attract favor that makes no sense to the people around you. You'll walk through doors that your resume doesn't qualify you for. You'll get contracts that your business experience doesn't justify. You'll find yourself in rooms that your background never prepared you for. Faith-led decisions are uncomfortable, but they are non-negotiable if you want to walk in kingdom-level results. Every breakthrough you're praying for is on the other side of a faith step you've been avoiding. You can't outwork disobedience. Some people believe that if they just grind harder, hustle longer, and put in more hours, they can force success to happen. They think that their dedication to the grind will somehow compensate for their lack of obedience to God's instructions. But let me tell you the hard truth. You cannot outwork disobedience. You can wake up at 4 a.m. every day, fill your calendar with back-to-back meetings, build funnels, make sales calls, and even close deals. But if your life and business are built on disobedience, the foundation is already cracked. Disobedience creates invisible resistance in your life. You won't always see it at first, but you'll feel it. You'll feel it in the form of doors that should open but won't, opportunities that seem close but never materialize, frustration that stays no matter how hard you push, exhaustion that follows you even after you've cleared your task list. Disobedience delays destiny. It blocks blessings. It creates spiritual friction that no amount of physical labor can fix. The word says in 1 Samuel 15:22, obedience is better than sacrifice. That means God doesn't want your busyness if it's birthed out of rebellion. He doesn't want your sacrifice of time and energy if you're ignoring the specific thing he told you to do. Some of you are praying for breakthrough, but God is waiting on your obedience. You're asking for increase, but you haven't even done the last thing God told you to do. You're asking for clarity, but you've ignored the last set of instructions he already gave you. You think more hours will fix it. You think more strategy will fix it. You think more networking will fix it. But none of that will override disobedience. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. Partial obedience is still disobedience. Doing what's convenient instead of what's commanded is still disobedient. Let me give it to you straight. You can't sow disobedience and expect to reap favor. You can't ignore God's voice all week and expect him to show up like a genie when you need him on Friday. You can't build your business on self-will and expect it to produce kingdom fruit. Obedience unlocks what hustle can't. There's a level of favor, a level of acceleration, and a level of supernatural provision that only flows on the other side of obedience. God doesn't bless talent over obedience. He doesn't bless effort over alignment. He blesses what's in order with his will. Some of you have been asking God why things aren't moving, why doors aren't opening, why the money isn't flowing like it should. And God is saying, I'm not obligated to bless disobedience. You're trying to build momentum while ignoring his mandates. You're trying to build platforms while ignoring your prayer closet. You're trying to chase opportunities while ignoring the conviction that's been in your spirit for months. Obedience is not just about big, dramatic moments. Sometimes it's small, quiet decisions. Forgiving someone you've been holding a grudge against, closing a business deal you know God told you not to take, walking away from a relationship he told you to leave, saying yes to an assignment that scares you. Obedience often won't make sense to your flesh. It won't always look profitable on paper. It may even make you look foolish to people who are operating by worldly logic. But obedience positions you for provision that the world can't explain. God doesn't want your hustle if your heart isn't aligned. He doesn't need your long hours if you're building something he never told you to build. He's not impressed by your grind if it's driven by pride or fear instead of faith. Your breakthrough is not buried under more work. It's buried under your disobedience. The fastest way to accelerate is to surrender. The fastest way to move forward is to go back and do the last thing God told you to do. When you align your actions with God's instructions, doors will open that no amount of hustle could force open. Resources will flow that your own grind could never produce. Favor will find you that your network could never create. Surrender invites multiplication. There's a kingdom principle that flips the world's logic upside down. What you surrender to God doesn't decrease, it multiplies. The world tells you to hold tight, control everything, and never let go of what you've worked hard for, but God's economy operates on a completely different law. Whatever you're willing to release, he's willing to increase. Most people are operating in lack because they're holding on too tight. They're clinging to their time, their money, their plans, their relationships, their businesses. They're afraid that if they let go, they'll lose everything. But the truth is, the thing you're refusing to surrender is the very thing God wants to multiply. Look at the story of the boy with the 5 loaves and 2 fish in John 6. It wasn't enough in the natural. It didn't make sense mathematically. But when it was surrendered into Jesus's hands, it fed thousands. The multiplication didn't happen while it stayed in the boy's hands. The miracle was unlocked when he surrendered it. Some of you are holding on to your business like that boy held his lunch, afraid to release it, afraid to trust God with it, afraid to tithe, afraid to sow, afraid to pivot when God says pivot, afraid to walk away from something that feels secure but is actually stagnant. You're praying for multiplication while living in a mindset of control. You're asking God to enlarge your territory while refusing to release what's already in your hand. But God doesn't multiply control, he multiplies surrender. When you surrender your time, God multiplies your productivity. When you surrender your resources, God multiplies your provision. When you surrender your plans, God multiplies your impact. When you surrender your heart, God multiplies your peace and joy. This is not about loss. This is about positioning yourself for supernatural increase. But here's the thing, surrender will always feel risky to your flesh. Your logical mind will scream, this doesn't make sense. Your emotions will fight back. Your fear will kick in. But faith moves forward even when feelings say no. Multiplication is always on the other side of surrender. Abraham didn't see the ram in the bush until he surrendered Isaac on the altar. Peter didn't walk on water until he surrendered his fear and stepped out of the boat. The woman with the oil didn't see it multiply until she started pouring it out. God is looking for people who will trust him enough to let go, to lay their businesses on the altar, to lay their finances on the altar, to lay their plans, their strategies, their timelines, and their goals on the altar. Because only what's on the altar is eligible for fire and multiplication. Surrender doesn't mean stop working. It doesn't mean sit back and do nothing. It means work from a place of faith, not fear. It means you execute the plan God gives you, not the one you made up out of anxiety. It means you move when God says move and stay when God says stay. You can't step into supernatural multiplication while living in natural control. You can't pray for breakthrough while holding on to everything like you're your own provider. You can't expect kingdom results while operating with a scarcity mindset. God's not asking you to surrender because he wants to take from you. He's asking you to surrender because he wants to get more to you. But he can't pour into closed hands. He can't fill what you refuse to release. Peace comes when God is in position. Most people are living with constant anxiety because God is not first in their life. They're trying to control outcomes, manipulate situations, and force success on their own terms. True peace doesn't come from having a full bank account or a successful business. It comes from divine alignment. When God is first, you stop chasing peace and start living in it. You stop reacting to every problem and start responding from a place of rest. The world may shake, but you stay still on the inside because you know who's really in control. Peace is not the absence of problems. It's the presence of God at the center of your decisions, your business, and your daily life. When he's first, stress loses its grip. Fear stops running your mind. You walk into boardrooms, client meetings, or even battles with a supernatural calm because you're not moving alone. Peace is a byproduct of priority. Partial obedience is still disobedience. Too many people obey God halfway and then wonder why they're not seeing full blessings. Partial obedience is still disobedience. When God tells you to do something, he's not asking for your version of the instruction. He's asking for full compliance. Delayed obedience, altered obedience, or selective obedience is still rebellion in God's eyes. You can't pick the parts of God's will that feel comfortable and ignore for the rest. Obedience isn't about convenience. It's about surrender. True obedience means following through even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you something, even when it doesn't make sense to your natural mind. God honors full obedience, not partial performance. When you follow through with exactly what he says, how he says it, and when he says it, that's when you position yourself for divine release and breakthrough. God-centered life builds unshakable legacy. Building legacy isn't about accumulating money, titles, or followers. It's about anchoring your life in something that can't be shaken when the world shakes. A God-centered life leaves a legacy that outlives you, impacts generations, and draws people closer to him long after you're gone. When God is your foundation, storms won't destroy what you've built. Your children, your community, your business partners will remember not just what you accomplished, but how you lived. They'll see consistency, faith, and integrity that came from putting God first. Your impact will ripple beyond your lifetime because what's built on God lasts. When God is first, everything else aligns automatically. So many people are stressed, burned out, and worn down because they're trying to force life into alignment on their own strength. When God is first, alignment becomes automatic. Opportunities line up, resources flow, right connections show up, favor finds you without striving. You don't have to manipulate people or situations to make things work. Divine timing takes over. The things you used to chase will start chasing you. God's order sets things in motion that your Grind never could. You'll find clarity where there was confusion, peace where there was pressure, and results that far exceed your own ability. Now listen to me. We've covered a lot today, and if you were really listening with your spirit, not just your ears, you already know this wasn't just information. This was your invitation to shift everything. You've heard the truth. God is your source, not your resource. You can't keep putting him on the back burner and expect kingdom level results. You've learned seek first the kingdom, not success. Because when you get the order right, the overflow becomes automatic. We talked about your schedule. Stop building your day around money. Build it around God. Let him dictate your agenda, your priorities, your next steps. You heard loud and clear, you can't outwork disobedience. It doesn't matter how many hours you grind. If you're not aligned, you're just busy being busy. You learn the power of surrender. Multiplication starts when you let go. Stop trying to control the outcome. Trust the one who controls the universe, and let's not forget about peace. Peace comes when God is in position one. Anxiety can't stay where God reigns. You were challenged on your obedience. Partial obedience, it's not about what's convenient, it's about full surrender. We talked about legacy. A God-centered life builds an unshakable legacy. This is bigger than you. This is about generations after you. And finally, when God is first, everything else aligns automatically. Opportunities, resources, favor, they chase you down when your priorities are in divine order. This is your moment. Not tomorrow, not next, right now. Make the decision to put God first, for real, in your heart, in your business, in your family, in your time, in your money, in every single decision. If you do this, you won't have to chase blessings. Blessings will start chasing you. If this message stirred something in your spirit, don't just sit on it. Hit that like button. Drop a powerful God first in the comments and share this video with someone who needs this word today. Let's spread this kingdom mindset and flood YouTube with truth and faith. And listen, if you're ready to go even deeper, if you want exclusive content, behind the scenes teachings, and direct access to strategies that align your faith and finances, join the membership right here on Myron Golden Track. We're building a community of kingdom-minded entrepreneurs, leaders, and action takers, and I want you to be part of it. So subscribe, join the membership, stay kingdom, stay focused, stay unstoppable. This is Myron Golden Track, and I'll see you at the top.